This broadcast segment from ESPN2 provides a passionate and detailed breakdown of the Philadelphia Eagles' dominant victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The discussion is energetic, filled with personal insights, historical comparisons, and reflections on the significance of this win for the Eagles and their fans. While the analysis is comprehensive, it also leans heavily on a subjective viewpoint, particularly in its dismissal of the Chiefs' ability to compete in the game. The commentary begins with a celebratory tone, acknowledging the Eagles' massive 40-22 win and emphasizing that the game was essentially over early. The hosts highlight the historical rarity of such a one-sided Super Bowl, comparing it to the 2013 Seahawks dismantling of the Broncos. The argument is made that if the Eagles wanted to win, they had to do so convincingly, and not allow Patrick Mahomes any chance to work his late-game magic. This premise is reinforced by an anecdote about how the Chiefs' kickoff team essentially disappeared from the field for much of the game, serving as a metaphor for Kansas City's inability to compete. The analysis of the game itself is thorough, but one-dimensional in its portrayal of the Eagles' dominance. The hosts discuss an early pass interference call against A.J. Brown, initially suggesting it might tilt the game in favor of the Chiefs, only to then dismiss its importance as the Eagles steamrolled their opponents. The game is described as boring due to the lack of competition, with the Chiefs failing to produce any meaningful resistance. The only moment of possible intrigue, when Kansas City had the ball down 17-0, was quickly dismissed due to an interception before halftime. From that point on, the narrative is that the game was completely out of reach, which, while largely accurate, overlooks any potential tactical adjustments the Chiefs attempted. The segment also delves into broader implications beyond the game itself, particularly regarding Patrick Mahomes' legacy. The hosts argue that this game decisively ends any comparisons between Mahomes and Tom Brady, pointing out that Mahomes failed to achieve the three-peat, which would have placed him in an unprecedented tier of NFL greatness. The Eagles' defensive strategy is heavily praised, especially their ability to pressure Mahomes without blitzing, drawing a comparison to the Giants' game plan against Brady in their Super Bowl wins. The discussion of coaching contrasts Nick Sirianni's leadership with Andy Reid's experience, noting that Sirianni successfully built a unified team culture where players embrace selflessness. Another key theme is Jalen Hurts' personal journey, particularly his motivation stemming from the Eagles' previous Super Bowl loss. The hosts emphasize how Hurts used a photo of the Chiefs celebrating as motivation, leading to a sense of poetic justice as he finally got to experience his own championship moment. His performance is praised for both statistical excellence and emotional resilience, with specific focus on his 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing score, and the famous tush-push play. The broadcast paints Hurts as a model of composure and determination, which is an important counterbalance to the narrative of Chiefs' failure. The discussion also touches on the atmosphere in New Orleans, where the Super Bowl took place, and the overwhelming presence of Eagles fans. There is an attempt to reframe this as essentially a home game for Philadelphia, reinforcing the notion that the team's victory was inevitable. While this perspective helps illustrate the passion of the fanbase, it somewhat dismisses the idea that the Chiefs had any real chance, which may come across as excessive. Finally, the hosts bring up the long-term implications for the Chiefs. They acknowledge Kansas City's history of close wins and suggest that there were warning signs throughout the season that this outcome was possible. However, they also express surprise that a team led by Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce could be dismantled so thoroughly. The closing sentiment is that this loss will linger in the minds of the Chiefs players more than their past victories, reinforcing the idea that when a dynasty-level team loses, the impact is more profound than when they win. Overall, this segment provides an in-depth and passionate reaction to the game, but its overwhelmingly pro-Eagles tone leaves little room for a balanced perspective. The Chiefs' struggles are analyzed primarily in the context of their failure rather than any credit being given to their efforts. While this makes for compelling sports talk, a more neutral analysis might have considered factors such as game adjustments, potential injuries, or other variables that contributed to the lopsided score. That said, for Eagles fans, this discussion perfectly encapsulates the joy and validation that came with their dominant Super Bowl win.